Evening, everyone. I'm Dean Ramsey, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Majestic Theater. This evening, we are presenting to you the Gettysburg Experience, Experience Gettysburg. This is really one of the highlights, absolute highlights of orientation. The 5 students, and this year we're adding an alumnus to the program, are here to present to you their reflections, their insights, their highs, their lows, their successes, their failures. They're going to reflect back on their Gettysburg experience. Each one is unique. Each one has, of course, they all have some common elements, but each one is really unique unto itself. And so as you're listening to their reflections, part of what we would like you to be doing is thinking about, just in the back of your mind as you're listening, think about what you want your Gettysburg experience to be. 4 years from now, what do you want to be able to look back on and say, that was part of my Gettysburg experience. That was part of what I look back on with pride, with a feeling of accomplishment.
And I'm here to talk to you about the Gettysburg experience, and that's about the people I've met, the things I've done, the lives that influenced me, and the lives that I've influenced throughout my career at Gettysburg. And my experience begins way back in high school, which isn't that long ago for many of you. And when I was starting my application to many schools, I took that essay that you guys all had to write, and I decided to make it really unique, and I wanted it to be individual and different from anything else. So I wrote my essay about the pointlessness of college essays. Yeah, it was about not being labeled as a number and, challenging these schools to bring me in for an interview if they really wanted to know who I truly was. Most schools rejected me, but hey, here I am, and that token of individuality continues to now and throughout my experience here, and so college is a great opportunity to recreate yourself, whether by choice or by the people around you. One of the first instances of my image being recreated was within 5 days of being here in Gettysburg. I was in the ER of Gettysburg Hospital. I had to go for emergency surgery on my foot and missed convocation. But the bright side was that I was in a wheelchair for 2 weeks following that, and I had long flowing locks resembling that of a biblical figure. And yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. And so I was known as Cripple Jesus. So, but okay, and everyone knew me as Cripple Jesus. So many people met me through that. There's so much hospitality here that people offered to push me around and carry my stuff for me. And then 2 weeks later, when I rose out of my chair, my first miracle, people still were just like, wow, you can walk, and wow, you're tall. But it started a trend, being known and being an individual and people knowing who I was and me knowing so many people through that. So that was a jump start to my career. And so the individuality can extend through academic and non-academic activities. So academic-wise, myself, I said acoustics major, so that's something individualizing a major. So it's physics and music is the technical name. And, that's pretty individual. My senior thesis that I'm working on now, I'm building violins, and I think that's pretty cool to just be doing as a class. And even outside of individualized majors, my math major, I've done 2 publications and research and presented in San Francisco, and get to travel on the school's money to present this stuff. And so outside of academics even, one of my, I think, non-academic activities are actually particularly appealing because they allow you to apply what you know inside the classroom, outside the classroom. One story that comes to mind is I went on a Center for Public Service trip down to New Orleans a couple of years ago, and I was in St. Bernard's Parish, and we were working at this one house, and it was a small group. It was 8 other people and then myself, and the owner said he would stop by, and 5 days went by. It was 95 degrees and ridiculously humid, and finally he stopped by, and after all that spackling and stuff, you just why weren't you here 5 days ago? And he introduced himself to everyone, and we're like, hi, he's like, thanks for doing all this work, and I'm gonna cook dinner for you guys. And we're like, oh, that's great. After eating in New Orleans for 5 days, that's pretty fantastic. And so he and a friend have to, lug this gigantic bucket out of the back of their truck. massive bucket and a massive what looks to be Bunsen burner and started simmering a giant pot of water. And we're all looking at each other like, what could this guy possibly be cooking? And he didn't cut anything up. He was throwing, whole onions in there and whole things of mesh bags of potatoes and whole tubs of Old Bay seasoning, and then eventually 43 pounds of crawfish. That's a lot of crawfish. And we were like, how are we going to eat all this? But he went around to all the neighboring houses as a cook, and invited them all over for dinner. And when it came time to eat, he took this giant bucket and poured it over 3 6-foot-long tables, and we all just sat there eating and talking, which is an incredible experience. And so using food to bring people together is really just a quintessential object. And that's even here, too. You can see the big thing that you guys will learn to love is the Thanksgiving dinner, when you and up to 12 other friends will be seated in servo and be served by professors. And you get to carve your own turkey and get endless mashed potatoes and all that stuff. And it's really just miraculous to have a Thanksgiving dinner here with your newfound family. But it's not even just Thanksgiving. It's even the meals in between, going to servo all the time, learn to love it. It's a great time to bond. Another few off-campus activities that really shined for me were I toured with the jazz ensemble to Greece and Italy a couple years ago. And that just as a performer, I learned so much more on that trip than I could have possibly have learned here in on rehearsal hall or on a stage like this. And the other one was that I studied in Melbourne, Australia, this past fall, a year ago. And from traveling from Tasmanian mountains to the outback, you learn so much. And it's really just a classroom inside and out. The one experience that I was telling these guys about was on the first day of the outback adventure. We were just camping out under the stars and seeing everything. We decided to pass through an Aboriginal village. And we arrived there in the morning, and there was a guy there who was telling us he was going to prepare us an Aboriginal meal that night. So again, with the cooking, he walks up and, good day and all that stuff, and he's holding 2 rabbits in one hand and a baby kangaroo in the other. It's exactly what we were expecting. And he's like, I shot this morning. It's for dinner. So same reaction as that all the students on that trip had, because we learned to pet them and feed them, and we're tourists but travelers, and wow, we're eating it now. So that was a harsh transition, but it's really just a great way, to get out of your comfort zone. Studying abroad is obvious in that aspect of getting out of your comfort zone, but really, you can do that even here. And it's all just a learning experience and trying to take what you learn outside the classroom or inside and vice versa, and really just interchange everything. And really, just look around you. You're just an incredible bunch of diverse and brilliant individuals, and you've got a heck of a lot to learn, and you already know a heck of a lot. So share the wealth, and if you don't feel like family now, just wait till Thanksgiving, and then I assure you, you will feel like family.
Hi, everyone. My name is Valerie Martin, and I'm a senior here at Gettysburg from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm a psychology major and a philosophy minor here, and I do a whole bunch of different things on campus, which I'll talk about later. But right now, my main focus is being an awesome orientation leader for Stein 3, and I know you guys are out there. I knew you guys are out there. All right, so a little bit about my Gettysburg experience. Ironically, my Gettysburg experience really became realized to me when I wasn't on this campus. In fact, I wasn't even in this country. I had the opportunity to study abroad in the spring, and study abroad brings a lot of really neat aspects to your Gettysburg experience in general. But the greatest impact it had for me was to show me what it means to be a community member here, right in Gettysburg. So picture this. On Monday, January 18th, 2010, I stepped out of a taxi cab in Athens, Greece, and it was pouring rain and freezing cold, which was not exactly what I expected Athens to be like when I arrived. I was standing in front of my new home. It was a lovely whitewashed apartment building, about 6 stories, squished between several other whitewashed apartment buildings on this great dead-end street that sloped with a 45-degree angle. My taxi cab driver unloaded my bags onto the street, and they promptly rolled down the street. So I had to chase after them, and I returned with my bags. and he mumbled something to me in Greek, and embarrassed, I had to admit to him that I did not speak Greek, and that I only understood English. And he just kind of shrugged and looked really disappointed, and he climbed back into his taxi cab and drove away. And there I stood on this street in Athens, pouring rain, freezing cold. I was exhausted, I was confused, I didn't speak the language, and I was very lost. And I just couldn't believe that I could find myself here in that position. After all these years at Gettysburg, I thought, isn't this what Gettysburg had been trying to prepare me for? I've been getting ready to go abroad for so long, and I've been preparing myself as a student to get ready to go abroad for so long. And I just was incredibly shocked at the fact that I felt so unprepared as I stood there. Now, when I arrived at Gettysburg 3 years ago, I came equipped with this awesome mantra that I'm sure you all have heard. College is the best 4 years of your life, and trust me, that's true. But I just kind of assumed that college would happen to me when I got here, assuming, it's the best 4 years of your life, and it will just happen. So I didn't really get too involved in the community when I arrived, and I was a friendly person, but I didn't make an effort to meet a lot of people, except for those who lived in my hall and in my dorm. And I ended up having some pretty big social issues right away, and this, led to a kind of a dependence on a lot of those who I was friends with and who I was close with, my family and my friends here on campus and my friends at home, and I relied very heavily on those who I was close with. And I guess through relying on them, and they encouraged me all to get a little bit more involved on this campus community. So my first semester here, I became a research assistant in the psychology department. And that's a job I still hold today, and I really enjoyed it. But I was still struggling and depending on a lot of people. When I returned sophomore year, I joined a couple more organizations. I became a tour guide, and I also joined a sorority. And those are things that I'm still a part of today as well. And it really helped me become more involved in this campus community, but it just didn't feel quite right. And I was still relying very heavily on those around me, and it just didn't seem quite right. So junior year, I returned, and I was an orientation leader for the class of 2013. And it really opened my eyes to some of the other awesome opportunities that we have on this campus. And I kind of decided right there that I was going to become an independent woman. I was done relying on those around me to support me and everything else. I wanted to be very independent and do my own thing. So I joined a couple more organizations. I became vice president of the Psychology Honor Society. I became an executive board member for the tour guides. I even began the process of starting a new peer counseling organization on this campus. So I took on a couple more things to get me more involved in this campus community. But with all that stress in my life, occasionally would catch up to me, and I really felt the need to lean on some people. And every time that happened, I felt really guilty about relying on people, because I had determined that I was going to be an independent woman. And so having to lean on somebody does not exactly make you independent. And I just realized that this wasn't quite right either. I couldn't understand this extreme independence either. And it was this attitude that really carried me to Athens on that lovely January afternoon. And so here I was, standing on the sidewalk, still, in the rain, in the cold. I couldn't move anywhere. I tried to move my bags across the street, and that didn't work, of course. So there I was, stuck on this sidewalk in Athens, and all of a sudden, out of my apartment building walks a younger girl, and she looked at me, and she kind of examined me, and I think I looked pretty crazy, and she burst out laughing, and she said, "Are you here with college year in Athens?" And I said, yes, I am. How could you tell? And she said, "Well, I am too." And I asked her, I said, do you think you can help me? I can't do this on my own. And it was really at that moment in Athens that I realized that I needed a balance of this independence and this dependence. That here I was, finally on my own, showing what Gettysburg had taught me in this foreign country, but I still could ask for help, and I could still ask for support from people. So I think that was a really big part of my Gettysburg experience, was learning to balance this independence and this dependence. We have a great community here, and they encourage you to do your own thing, do what you love, be unique, go out and do what you want. And I'm sure you guys have heard a lot of that about lot about that these last few days. But please remember to not be afraid to ask for help too. And this community is about balancing this independence and this dependence here. Thank you.
Good evening to the Gettysburg College class of 2014. My name is Paul Redfern, and I serve as Director of Web Communications and Marketing here at Gettysburg. But more importantly, tonight, I'm here because I'm a member of the class of 2000. Now, at this point in the evening, you are probably wondering why this old, somewhat overweight guy who is sitting in a chair that looks like it belongs on a basketball court is talking to you. And the last thing you want is to hear from another adult behind another podium imparting wisdom on you. Hopefully that's not the case tonight. This summer I was asked if I would like to be one of the speakers tonight about my experiences at Gettysburg and how they have helped to shape my life after I graduated. At first glance, the assignment was easy. Of course, I had graduated from Gettysburg 10 years ago and have worked here my entire career. First as an assistant basketball coach, hence the chair, then in the admissions office, and most recently in communications and marketing. It ended up being harder than I thought to write this speech because Gettysburg has meant so much to me. I wanted to start tonight with some of the differences between the Gettysburg I entered in the fall of 1996 and the Gettysburg of today. The class of 2000 had 621 students, 100 some short of the class of 2014. We didn't have the opportunity to take classes in the new science complex, or to work out in the Center for Athletics, Recreation, and Fitness, or to live in the Quarry Suites. There was not a conservatory or a public policy major, and we didn't have Facebook to get to know each other. We had the Gettysburg College class of 2000 new student directory. Tonight I want to talk to you about 3 experiences and how they relate to 3 words that you have all undoubtedly seen, if not in the past year, then most certainly in the last 4 days. Those 3 words are at the core of my Gettysburg experience. Do great work. In 1996, I was asking myself, what would I do? How was I going to get involved? I had read the literature. I had listened to the speeches. They told me that there were no bystanders at Gettysburg. So I decided to run for president of my class. That's how I would start to make a difference. I wrote letters, I hung up posters, I talked to my classmates, and I lost. It's not funny. It's not a funny thing. It was very tough. After getting over the loss, I had to figure out what I would do. What was I passionate about, and how could I get involved? In high school, I rode the bench on the varsity basketball team. I like to say that if I were just a bit taller, a little bit faster, could jump a little bit higher, I would have made a heck of a player. But I was truly passionate about the game of basketball. So I walked down to the athletic complex and went up to meet George Petrie, the head basketball coach. Over the years, I have often wondered what George thought of this, at the time, skinny kid who just volunteered to be the basketball manager and didn't even want to be paid. I went on to manage the team for my first 2 years, became a student coach, then an assistant for 6 more after that. During that time, I had the opportunity to learn about life. We traveled with the team to Europe twice. I learned how to lose on a half-court shot at Franklin and Marshall, which made winning the conference title and cutting down their nets 2 years later all the better. Through basketball, I learned more about life's challenges and overcoming setbacks than I could ever imagine. How will you answer the question, what will I do? I challenge you to do more, to do better, to do it for yourself. But whatever you do, make it count. My second story focuses on the word great. What will inspire you to be Gettysburg great? How will you challenge yourself? Gettysburg is a place that is known worldwide, and is a place where something happened close to 150 years ago that changed the course of history. To become great, you need the opportunities to test yourself against the best. And Gettysburg provided me that opportunity inside the classroom. My sophomore year, I took a course called The American Presidency with political science professor Shirley Ann Warshaw. It changed my life. I was a good student in high school, did particularly well in social studies. I had taken AP History and AP Government and Politics. I had read a couple of books, but no one would challenge me at Gettysburg like Professor Warshaw. It's rather intimidating when you sit in her office and you see Christmas cards hung up from the President of the United States. I was honored during my junior year to be one of her research assistants and had the opportunity to not only take classes, write papers, meet political players, but helped her write a book. And I can remember when one of the drafts came back from the editor, and the editor wanted another chapter added. She sat us down, asked us for our opinion as her equals, as her colleagues. Professor Warshaw gave me the confidence to be great. So as you sit here tonight, what will inspire you to be Gettysburg great? Finally, let's talk about the word work. At Gettysburg, your education has had a purpose, and you will be successful in whatever career or job that you choose. I have no doubt about that. But that's not the whole story. And my experience in life would not be complete without the other things. 14 years after I entered Gettysburg, I ask myself almost every day, how am I going to work to make a difference? My best friend graduated from Gettysburg College. I'm actually missing his 35th birthday party tonight to be here with you. Thank you. When we get together and talk, almost every conversation that we have has something to do with Gettysburg. At times we reminisce at our past, and at times we joke. But more often than not, we talk about how and what we can do to make Gettysburg better. How can we make an impact? How can we engage with the institution? Because there's more work to be done. After your formal time here at Gettysburg, what will you work for? How will you work for change in your communities, in your nation, and in our world? I talked about the differences in our experiences earlier this evening, but at the core, the Gettysburg experience has not changed. Your lives will be impacted by a professor. The staff in Servo knows your name. And beating Franklin and Marshall in just about anything is still pretty good. But more importantly, we are part of a community that bleeds orange and blue. Huh? There is a line in the alma mater that touches me almost every time I hear it. Forever I am thy debtor, and whatever else I may do, I'll love, I'll defend, and I'll honor the glorious orange and blue. Gettysburg is personal to me. I learned, just another minute, I learned what it means to lead, to step up and take responsibility, to engage in a variety of perspectives other than my own. I also learned how to be comfortable in my own skin and really understand what I bring to the table as an individual. I learned to strive to do great work each day. So the next time you see those three little words, don't think of a tagline, and don't think it's something extra on a brochure or a publication. Think of them as the Gettysburg experience, because for me, they are. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Enzo. I'm a senior, globalization studies major, business econ minor. I'm involved in a few things on campus, but most recently, OL and Hanson too. Thanks, guys. So consider yourselves lucky because all of you represent a small percentage of the world's population that are able to obtain a college degree. And consider yourselves extra lucky to be attending such a fine institution such as Gettysburg College. the opportunities that you will find here are almost endless. And personally, one of the most rewarding opportunities that you have is to study abroad. So last semester, I spent the whole semester in South Africa. I've always wanted to explore and discover Africa, and just the idea of seeing a developing country in a different form is very appealing to me. Well, by the way, I forgot to mention that I'm an international student from the Philippines. So I'm from a developing country, another one. And so what I wanted to do last semester was to get out of the classroom, because to be honest, everyone gets tired of the classroom. Doesn't matter how much you love your professors, but so I wanted to get out of the classroom, and I enrolled in a program called Social and Political Transformation through the School of International Training, or SIT in short. And they focus on field-based approach to learning. And so a lot of these experts came to us and talked to us about social and political issues, and we would also go out to these different organizations to see what kind of work they're doing. And even if Africa is the most conflicted continent in this planet, there's still so many people doing so much good. One of the best experience during the program happened in the middle of March. There was a Street Children's World Cup that happened right in the city where we were studying, and so there were these eight countries with street children that came over and played their own World Cup. Whenever they weren't playing soccer, they had these workshops where they were being taught about their rights, and art sessions to help them express themselves. And in the end, one of the biggest legacies is that they developed a street child manifesto that the UN is using to uphold street children's rights around the world. And so in the final game between the Philippines and the host South Africa, I knew one of the co-managers for the Philippine team at home, and he asked me if I would like to sportscast for that final match. And I said, sure, why not? I've never done it before. I'm pretty much the only Filipino in South Africa right now, and I'll do it, why not? And so I did it. I sportscasted for the final match, which ran for almost 2 hours, and it was broadcasted live in the UK and the Philippines. And I was exhausted, but at the same time exhilarated after that whole experience. And it was really one of the highlights of my stay in South Africa. And another focus that SIT has is on their homestays. So I had 2 main homestays, one in the urban areas where I had 1 mom and 3 siblings, and we were living in a lower middle class area, and where some people weren't even employed. We didn't have any AC, no running water, not even fans in the rooms during the African summer. And despite all that, it was such a great experience. It's a great experience just to come into a new setting and try and adapt to the people and the environment in this new place. And the second homestay we had is in the rural areas, and we were living on top of this hill that overlooked the ocean, and it was so peaceful. No one knew what time it was, and no one knew the day of the week. We would sleep when we're sleepy and eat when we're hungry, wake up when we feel like waking up. And throughout this whole week, we were teaching at a local high school, different classes. So we were teaching, and on the last day, we had this mini World Cup match. It was USA versus South Africa. And so we ended up letting them win. But but the setting where we played at the field was on an incline, and people were playing barefoot. Not the whole field had grass, and the goals were made out of wood. It was just soccer stripped right to its basics. And so the point is, maybe some of you or most of you are experiencing it right now, or just the same way I felt when I was a first year coming as a foreigner into a different country, and having that need to settle in a new environment and get to know these new people. But quickly I got involved and made a lot of friends, made use of the resources that this college has, and there are a lot, so you should make use of them. And in the fall of my sophomore year, I became a brother at Lambda Chi Alpha, and I know that some of my brothers are here right now, and some of them represent your orientation staff, so hey guys. And so the point is just to really challenge yourself, because you won't if you step out of your comfort zone, you will learn a lot about yourself and you'll really grow as a person. And so after the program, there's some big event that happened this summer in South Africa. And a lot of people accuse me that you're just going to South Africa to see the World Cup. And I said, no, I've always wanted to go to South Africa. I just went last semester to see the World Cup. So the timing was perfect. I worked it out with the Office of Off-Campus Studies and stayed for 2 extra months after the program. Traveled a lot before the World Cup, saw a few games, met a lot of crazy fans, had a great time. And I'm sure some of you have heard the vuvuzelas on TV. And trust me, it's not as bad on TV. It's actually pretty awesome in the stadiums. And I was also able to go to 3 games for free. So that worked out really well. And one more thing. I also got to see Fernando Torres and Cristiano Ronaldo with their shirts off. So, I mean, who watches the matches for the soccer, right? One of the more important legacies that the World Cup left in South Africa was the re-imaging of the country and the continent as a whole. Some people just see Africa as this place with a lot of poverty and crime and children with no clothes and bloated bellies living in the deserts. It's not all like that. So that was one of the most important things that South Africa was able to change, to reshape the way that people look at the continent. And one of my favorite things that I learned from my entire stay there was this spirit called Ubuntu. It means that everyone's humanity, or a person's humanity, is measured according to their relationship to others. And when I sort of witnessed this and came to realize that, hey, this also exists in Gettysburg. It's not just a South African thing. I mean, I'm sure some of you have seen it, for those that went to Give Day, how the college and the community interact, and they really help each other out, and it's kind of like a give and take thing. And every year there are a number of volunteers that go to El Centro and teach these little kids for an after-school program, or just the number of houses that Habitat for Humanity, Gettysburg College, has built in the community. You really can see it here, just because Gettysburg College is such a great community. It has a really special family feel to it. And just make sure that you use the people and your resources really well. Everyone here really wants you to succeed, and everyone will help you out to succeed. The opportunities are right in front of you. The doors are open, both literally and figuratively. So it's all up to you to make your own Gettysburg experience unique, and the way each of us have made ours. And so just go out and go for it.
Hey guys, I'm Colin Gilmore. I'm an English major from Middletown, Delaware. I'm, for the first time, an orientation leader for Stein 1. Nice. I play ice hockey for the ice hockey club here. I work in the college bookstore and for campus recreation. And I'm also this is my 4.5 year at Gettysburg College. I'm a super senior. My Gettysburg College experience started the summer after my freshman year of high school, when my dad randomly came up to me and asked me if I wanted to go to baseball camp at Gettysburg College. So of course I was like, all right, yeah, I'll pass some time during the summer, you know, who cares if I have to wake up a little early every day, but you know, I came here, I loved it. You know, I fell in love with the campus. I knew nothing about the academics, and I loved everything about the school, just from seeing it for the first time. So I came back for the next 2 summers after that, and you know, when time came around to it 3 years later, I applied here early decision, and it was the only application I sent in anywhere, the only school I looked at, and I got in. And, you know, I found out, I started freaking out in the front yard, started, you know, like flailing around, and really over-exaggerated celebration. And I was really excited. And when the time came, it was the fall of 2006. I came here, I didn't know anyone on move-in day. The only 2 people I knew were upperclassmen who graduated from my high school, and that was it. So what I really wanted to focus on when I got here was making friends and, you know, building relationships with the people around me, and not really worrying about academics. You know, they were in the back of my head somewhere. So that's really what I wanted to do. And it started to show that I didn't care about my academics, especially going into my sophomore year. You know, I didn't do anything really on campus. I might have played a few intramural sports, but I don't think it's really as much as, you know, getting involved in the community. But I didn't really mind. I had a ton of friends, and that's all that really mattered to me. I was having a lot of fun. And it turns out that because I wasn't really doing anything around on campus and not getting involved with my academics or anything else, it started to show. And especially one instance is when Coach Campo, the head baseball coach, came up to me during one of our practices. He was like, "Colin, I see your progress report here. It says you have a D in Spanish." I was like, "Oh yeah, no, Coach, I know. I'm working on it. You know, I'll get some help, and you know, I'll figure stuff out." But I never really did. I never went out and talked to my professor, or went out on a limb and tried to figure stuff out like that. And it, you know, come around January of 2008, I think it was, I got a call from the academic standing committee telling me that I was suspended from school, from Gettysburg College, for two semesters. And it was a shock. I didn't know what I was going to do while I was at home. You know, I never accepted my failure. I see it. You know, I didn't know what to do when I was at home, and I never really took responsibility for what I had done or what I hadn't done while I was at school for that first year and a half. But I still loved Gettysburg College. It was still the same place I saw it when I saw it the first time when I was a freshman in high school. So in order to pass the time when I was at home, I got a job at Dick's Sporting Goods. You know, still upset. But I figure I'll make some money while I'm at home. And, you know, it never really hit me what Gettysburg College meant to me until I saw a friend from high school. He came into Dick's Sporting Goods and was like, "Colin, what are you doing here? Like, aren't you supposed to be at school?" I couldn't answer it. I couldn't tell him anything. I was really embarrassed about what had happened, and I finally came to terms with it. And so I started my reapplication process to get back into Gettysburg College. And you know, part of that was to go to another institution around near my home. You know, I started commuting to Wilmington University. It's about a half-hour drive. But it actually helped me see what Gettysburg College has that other schools don't have. You know, I got the chance to see what other professors are like. You know, we go to class once a week for 2.5 hours, and the professors would show up right on time, would leave right when the class was over, and you can never really get in touch with them like you can with professors here. So once I got back in the spring of 2009, you know, I started to focus on what I had been missing while I was here for my first half of, you know, my career here. And I wanted to graduate, you know, now. I wanted to graduate in December instead of, you know, another full semester at school. So I worked out a process with my advisor in the registrar's office, and I went and used my resources to find out what requirements I needed to have and what I needed to do while I was here. And, you know, it worked out perfectly. I'm managing to graduate in December, and it's just that use of resources that I found that I didn't have the first time through that, you know, really helped me. And, you know, I also started not to really focus on just my academics. I found other ways to, like, pass the time when I wasn't doing homework or writing papers and everything like that. So I got a job in the bookstore. You know, I work in the stock room in the back, and if you're ever in, just come in and say hi to me. I also work for campus recreation. I'm an intramural supervisor, so I pretty much run. I select times and I run the intramurals, the intramural games. Excuse me. And I also play club hockey. You know, I played club hockey while I was going through high school, all 4 years, and I absolutely love it. It's absolutely the best sport ever. And, you know, playing hockey here gave me the chance to, you know, play a sport, but not take it as seriously as I had when I was playing baseball. And it, you know, it wasn't much time consumption. We practice once a week. We play on the weekends, play games on the weekends. And, you know, when that final whistle blows, we're completely serious through everything. When that final whistle blows from practice to the games, I'm back to being a student again. And I think that's what really matters. And, you know, our clubs give you the chance to do that and not I mean, for me, varsity sports were way too serious, and playing clubs, it worked out perfectly. I'd like to see now my Gettysburg experience as I'm finally closing out my last semester. It was, I'm finally reaching that peak to what I can accomplish, unlike before. And it's not a fact that I am fulfilling what I needed to finish, and I don't regret anything that happened to me, because I wouldn't go back and change anything that had happened. It helped me grow who I am now. I have this great sense of what I can accomplish and what I can do. And I like to see my past as a sort of motivation for what I've done over the past year and a half here, and not let me fall back into my previous habits of skipping class and not doing homework. And it really, when I saw the rest of my class walk across that stage in front of Penn Hall this past May, it wasn't a sense of that I had failed, but it was, I finally saw my victory. It's not an extra victory lap, but being back here and coming back to Gettysburg, the school allowed me, to feel and to know who I am now. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I'm sure you're all a little bit relieved to know that I am the last Gettysburg experience that you're going to be hearing tonight. Okay. I'm going to ask you to take a minute and picture yourself climbing a 14,000-foot mountain in Colorado, Mount Chavano. Picture yourself taking along 500 pounds of food and 1,000 pounds of gear. Your trip's going to last you about 11 days, and nighttime temperatures might go down to about -10 degrees. Do you think you can do it? Yeah, you can. You all can. Every single person in this room is capable of doing this trip. You may not think so right now, just as I didn't think I'd ever be able to do a trip like that when I was sitting in your seat. But Gettysburg gives you the chance to do so many things that you would never think possible. My name is Monica Schmidt, and I'm a senior chemistry major. I am the first generation in my family to be born in the United States and the second person to go to college in America. When I first came to Gettysburg College, I decided to get involved in as many clubs and activities as I could. In high school, I was that girl who defined herself as being a member in almost every single club. So when I came to Gettysburg, I thought I would do the same thing. Look around, anything that caught my eye, sure, why not? I'd join it. But it wasn't too long until I realized that college is a lot different than high school. You can't be a member in every single club and be half as dedicated as you'd like to. So what I did is I cut down those 12 clubs that I was a member of to about half, so kept it at 6, and it allowed me to take up a position in 3 of those clubs. So the trip to Colorado, I was able to do that trip because I am a GRAB facilitator. GRAB is Gettysburg Recreational Adventures Board, and GRAB is a program that allows students to partake in different trips in the state, in the country, all around. These trips are in the outdoors, so they're backpacking, kayaking, rock climbing. A couple of you in here might already be familiar with GRAB, as you may have participated in Ascent. I just came back from a kayaking trip with my first years in Maryland, and I know they're in here. My younger sister is also actually a first year. So, yeah. After Maryland, I was able to tell some of my participants all the clubs and activities I'm a part of. So also, other than GRAB, I'm also the vice president of the Pan-Hellenic Council, which is the board that kind of represents all the different sororities on campus. I am a member of the Pre-Health Professions Club, as well as the Student Conduct Review Board, and I'm also the vice president of the Chemistry Club. So when I first came to Gettysburg, I thought I knew exactly what I wanted to do in life. In high school, I had shadowed a pediatrician a couple times, and I wanted to become a doctor. So the winter of my freshman year, I went to the Center for Public Service on campus, which is a program that really encourages community bonding and community interaction and allows you to try out different immersion projects. So I found an immersion project in Maryland at the University of Maryland Medical Center, and I got to shadow in the shock trauma resuscitation unit at the hospital. So you can only imagine, in the middle of Baltimore, you will see all kinds of things. I saw stabbings, gunshot wounds, I saw hypothermia, I saw ridiculous things. Anyway, this experience was one that I probably would have never gotten the chance to get otherwise if I'd never stepped into the door of CPS and asked about an immersion project. So then the next summer, I decided to do a little bit of research on my own, and I found another immersion project in Costa Rica and Panama. Now, this trip was a little bit different in that it had two separate parts. The first half was medical, and the second half was dental. Dentistry was a profession that I'd never really looked at before. You know, I had braces like almost everyone has nowadays, but it wasn't something that I was really that interested in because I didn't know that much about it. So I kind of took a limb and went on this trip, and it was kind of a challenge at first, as I spoke absolutely no Spanish whatsoever. And the patients we were working with were indigenous people of certain tribes, so they either spoke the language of their tribe or Spanish. So needless to say, I had no way of communicating verbally with these patients. So how can you communicate with other people if you can't talk to them? Well, it wasn't too long until I realized that the best way to do so was to communicate through your hands, your actions, and your eyes. So for an example, I was in charge of teaching my patients how to floss and the importance of flossing. So what I did is I took out a piece of floss, I flossed my own teeth, and then I took out a new piece of floss, gave my patients a mirror, let them feel the floss so they could see what it was made from, and I flossed their teeth for them. Then I pointed at their gums so that they could see how much they were bleeding. And then I pointed at my own gums, and I was able to compare their teeth to my own, and they saw how poor their oral health was. Now, some of these patients had never, no one has ever even looked inside their mouths. You know, not needless to say that they've been to a dental office. But anyway, the coolest part about this trip was that I basically got to act as a hygienist, and in the United States, that would never happen. Without any dental background, you would never be able to put a finger inside anyone's mouth, nonetheless like floss their teeth and scrape away at cavities that they had. So it was really cool. Of course, while I was on the program, we got some training, but I wasn't just digging away. But so after this trip, I was able to really realize the importance of communication. And I was able to calm some of the fear that I saw in these natives' eyes just by showing them how to do things on my own. So this is where I'm going to kind of turn the table back to you guys. And just as I was able to encourage these people to try something new, I'm going to do the same to you. Not to floss, for please tell me, you know, you guys all do floss. But I am going to encourage you to try different clubs, do an immersion project, or play an intramural sport. Go on a grab trip. If you went on ascent, encourage your friends to try something new. Don't let the fact that you've never slept anywhere other than your own mattress deter you from coming on a grab trip. In high school, I had never done anything in the outdoors before. I had never gone kayaking, rock climbing, nothing like that. So when I came to college, I actually learned about Grab from the Student Digest. I saw a post that they were having an information session, and I went to it. And Grab had a PowerPoint up with tons of pictures of the coolest things I thought. I mean, everything that they were showing was just amazing, and it was something that I never tried before, so I really wanted to test it out. So when I was applying, you know, I kind of applied out of a limb, and I didn't think that there was any way that I'd be given a position as a facilitator because I had no experience whatsoever. But what I learned was that not having any experience actually benefited my application. I got past the first round of applicants and I got an interview. And at the interview, I told the director that I was a little bit hesitant because I have no experience. And he said, you know what, that makes you that much better of an applicant. I said, are you kidding me? Like, I've never done any of this. And he said, that's perfect for us because then we can teach you everything. And we can teach it to you the way that Gettysburg has its protocol to be taught. So we learned, I mean, I can't even tell you how much I've learned. Since I've joined Grab, I've led trips all over the place, and I've gone to Arizona rock climbing, I've been to North Carolina in the Outer Banks kayaking. But needless to say, Don't let the fact that you may not have any experience in something prevent you from applying for it. Try something new and go out, and don't be afraid. Just remember that every single person in this room is standing in the same shoes that you guys are. So never think that you're alone in this. And if you're afraid, just talk to the person right next to you, because they're probably just as afraid as you are. And never forget that there's always a challenge out there. There's always a trip that you can go on. So someone will be out there trekking that mountain with you. Thanks.